I unlocked the door to my lake cabin one Friday afternoon and was immediately greeted by a teenager in mirrored sunglasses, clutching a Bluetooth speaker and a six-pack of White Claw. He couldn't have been more than 17, with a man bun that seemed to defy gravity and a vape pen tucked behind his ear like a number 2 pencil. "You need to leave," he announced, adjusting his shades despite standing comfortably in the shadow of my porch. "My mom said I could use this place for my graduation rager. You've had it long enough." I blinked, certain I hadn't heard him right. "Excuse me? You're serious?" The kid grinned, teeth gleaming like he'd just come from a whitening session. "You should have RSVP'd to the HOA party list, dude. Now it's my turn." I stared at him, taking in that kind of unchecked arrogance that only comes from a life without consequences. "And your mother would be Brenda Fitzgerald," he said proudly. "She runs this whole place." He gestured vaguely at the woods surrounding us. "So yeah, you gotta clear out by 6. We've got a DJ coming." 30 minutes later, that DJ never showed, but 8 squad cars, 2 K9 units, and a boat patrol did, because I wasn't just a guy who owned the cabin. I was Chief Daniel Morrison, head of the Silver Ridge County Police Department, and this kid had just made the biggest mistake of his short, privileged life. Let me back up. I bought this lakeside cabin in Pine Valley Estates 3 years ago after my divorce. It was my refuge, a place where I could fish, read, and escape the constant pressure of running a police department. Pine Valley was a gated HOA community known for strict rules about everything from the shade of your mailbox to what type of bird feeder you were allowed to hang. I'd chosen a cabin at the very edge of the community, tucked between towering pines and overlooking Crystal Lake. Quiet, secluded. Most importantly, no one knew who I really was. Around here, I was just Dan, the polite guy who kept himself and always brought his trash cans and on time. Then came Brenda Fitzgerald, HOA president, self-appointed guardian of community order, and mother to Tyler, the smug teenager currently trying to hijack my property. Brenda was the type who measured grass with a ruler and issued citations for wind chimes that were too melodic. I'd stayed under her radar until Tyler stumbled across my cabin while paddle-boarding with friends. Apparently, he decided it was the ideal venue for his senior send-off, and his mother agreed. Her reasoning? Something about fair use of community resources. 2 weeks before the confrontation, the email campaign began. The first one was casual. Brenda asked if I was done enjoying the cabin for the season, and suggested I consider sharing the lakefront blessing with younger residents. I replied politely, letting her know I use the cabin year-round. Her second email dropped the niceties. She claimed the HOA was drafting a community cabin rotation policy that would require lakefront owners to make their homes available for HOA-approved events. She attached what looked like a policy document, likely cobbled together in Microsoft Paint. I ignored it. Mistake number 1. A week later, I got an official-looking letter on HOA letterhead announcing that my cabin had been selected for the upcoming June Youth Appreciation Weekend, with Tyler's graduation bash listed as the featured event. The letter was signed by Brenda and 2 board members I'd never heard of. I replied with a firm, professional email, citing actual property law, and reminded them that private property in an HOA is still, in fact, private. I figured that was the end of it. Mistake number 2. Not long after, my trail cam started picking up footage of Tyler on my dock, taking selfies, posing with my kayak, even try to open my shed. He posted them on social media with captions like, "Scouting the venue and this place about to be lit." Then, Thursday night, I got a call from Brenda herself. Her voice had that overly sweet tone people use when they're about to do something ugly. "Dan, I really think you're being unreasonable. The children of this community deserve to celebrate. Surely you remember what it was like to be young." "I do," I replied evenly. "And I remember respecting other people's property." She gave an exaggerated sigh. "Well, I try to handle this a friendly way, but the HOA has broad authority when it comes to community wellness. Don't make this more difficult than it has to be." "Is that a threat, Brenda?" "I'm simply reminding you of your responsibilities as a member of this community." She hung up before I could answer. Which brings us back to Friday. I'd left work early that day. Something about her tone didn't sit right. Good thing I trusted my instincts. It was a good thing I trusted my gut. When I pulled up the cabin, the front gate was wide open. The lock had been cut clean through, and plastic tiki torches were jammed haphazardly into the dirt like some sort of suburban war totem. Inside was worse. Tyler and his friends had turned my living room into a full-blown party zone. Neon lights hung from the ceiling. A beer pong table dominated the center of the room. Someone had even taped glow sticks to the base of my mounted bass, the one my father caught in '87. My kitchen looked like a frat house exploded. Red Solo cups, chip bags, and enough booze to supply a dive bar for a weekend. And as a cherry on top, Tyler was wearing my lucky fishing hat, the one my grandfather gave me, after he once again informed me, the actual owner, that I needed to leave. I stepped out onto the porch and made a call. "Hey, Richardson, it's Morrison. I need units at my cabin in Pine Valley. We got a B&E in progress. Underage drinking, possible theft." "Full response, Chief?" he asked. I glanced at Tyler, who was now tick-tock dancing on my deck. "Negative. Light them up." 20 minutes later, the forest echoed with sirens. Squad cars barreled down the lake road, lights blazing and sirens howling. The music cut mid-beat. Teenagers scattered like cockroaches at the flick of a kitchen light. Tyler tried to make a run for it, but tripped over his own flip-flops. In a stroke of genius, he climbed into my canoe to hide, only to drift out into the lake, wide-eyed and panicking. Officer Martinez greeted him at the center of Crystal Lake with the department's patrol boat. "I want my mom." Tyler yelled as Martinez hauled his soggy, defeated body aboard. "Don't worry," Martinez said cheerfully. "We're calling her right now." Brenda arrived 15 minutes later in a white Range Rover, laying on the horn like a woman possessed. She screeched to a halt, leapt out in yoga pants and a live, laugh, love t-shirt, face flushed with fury. "What is the meaning of this?" she shrieked, storming toward the nearest officer. "This is an HOA-sanctioned event. I demand you vacate immediately." I stepped out from behind a squad car, now in full uniform. I kept my chief's gear in a cabin closet for emergencies. This absolutely counted. Brenda stopped dead, her face drained of color faster than Tyler fled the dance floor. But you said you work for county." "I do," I said. "I just never told you in what capacity." "This is entrapment," she sputtered. "You lied about your identity." "No," I corrected. "I just didn't advertise it. Unlike your son, who very publicly broadcasts his crimes on social media." I held up my phone and scrolled through Tyler's posts. He even tagged the location. Officer Chan walked up with Tyler in cuffs. The kid's man bun was drooping, his designer shades askew. "Mom," Tyler whimpered, "tell them about the community property thing." Brenda tried to regroup. "The HOA has an easement on all lakefront properties for community use." "Really?" I raised an eyebrow and pulled out my phone again, because I have the actual bylaws right here, and there's no mention of anything resembling property seizure. There is, however, a whole section about respecting neighbors' property rights. Lieutenant Walker joined us, clipboard in hand. "Chief, we catalog enough alcohol in the cabin to serve 100 underage guests. Also, we found a spreadsheet detailing cover charges. This wasn't a party. It was a business." Brenda scoffed weakly. "That's entrepreneurship. That's contributing to the delinquency of minors," I said flatly. "And since you knew about it, threatened me over it, and gave your son the green light, that makes you an accessory." "I want a lawyer," she snapped. "Excellent idea." I nodded. "You'll need one for the criminal charges, and probably the civil suit I'll be filing for property damage." I gestured to my poor mounted base, still glowing with neon tape. That fish was caught by my father. 1987. Took him 4 hours to land it. Around us, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered, drawn by the noise and flashing lights. I heard someone murmur, "I told you Brenda was going too far. Wait till the board hears about this." Tyler was placed into a squad car and taken in for processing. Charges: breaking and entering, criminal trespass, underage possession, and theft. That last one for my fishing hat, which was thankfully recovered. Brenda, for her part, was issued citations for enabling trespass and contributing to the delinquency of minors. Officer Chan handed her the paperwork, while she kept insisting it was all a misunderstanding. No, I told her. The misunderstanding was thinking you could bully people out of their property rights and use your son as a pawn to do it. That's going to look fantastic in the HOA minutes. By Saturday morning, the story had spread through Pine Valley Estates like wildfire. An emergency HOA board meeting was called. I showed up in full uniform, flash drive in hand, containing footage from my hidden trail cams. The meeting was held in the community center. Standing room only. Brenda sat at the head table, flanked by her two loyal board members, both of whom were suddenly very preoccupied with their phones. I called this meeting to order, she said weakly, the iron authority gone from her voice. Motioned to add an agenda item. Called out Robert Jameson, a retired attorney from the golf course side of the neighborhood. Discussion of the president's recent criminal activity. That's not how this works. Brenda protested. Actually, Robert Jameson said, pulling a well-worn copy of the HOA bylaws from his briefcase. Section 12.4 states that any board member facing criminal charges must immediately step down pending resolution of their case. Those are just citations, Brenda snapped. I stood up. Would the board care to review the security footage of the president's son breaking into my cabin, or the text she sent threatening to misuse HOA authority to force me out? The room exploded. Neighbors I'd never even spoken to started chiming in, sharing their own run-ins with Brenda's overreach. Apparently, she once fined a couple over the wrong shade of beige curtains and tried to ban bird feeders because they attracted undesirable wildlife. Motion to remove Brenda Fitzgerald as HOA president. Someone called out. Second, came a chorus of voices. The vote was swift and unanimous, save for Brenda herself. Even her two longtime allies turned on her, likely hoping to salvage their reputations. You can't do this, Brenda cried, standing so fast she knocked over a chair. I've been president for 5 years. This community needs me. What this community needs, Robert replied calmly, is leadership that respects the law and its residents. Brenda grabbed her purse and stormed toward the exit. Halfway there, she whirled around. You'll regret this, she snarled. Just wait until your property values plummet. The only thing plummeting, I said, is your son's college prospects after that arrest record. She slammed the door so hard the community center's welcome sign fell off the wall. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Tyler eventually pled guilty to several misdemeanors and received 6 months probation, 100 hours of community service, and was ordered to pay me $2,000 in restitution. The judge also made him write a 5-page essay on the importance of respecting private property, which, from what I heard, he found harder than the community service. Brenda wasn't so lucky. The charge of contributing to the delinquency of a minor stuck. She was hit with hefty fines and ordered to attend mandatory parenting classes. Meanwhile, several homeowners filed civil suits after an internal review uncovered a slew of abuses committed under her leadership, including fraudulent fines, petty harassment, and blatant misuse of HOA resources. Then came the real bombshell. The new board launched a forensic audit. It turned out Brenda had been siphoning off HOA funds for years, disguising personal expenses as community improvements. Those vision board retreats she bragged about, they were spa weekend for her and her friends. She embezzled nearly $47,000 over 3 years. She was charged with felony embezzlement, a Class D felony carrying a sentence of up to 5 years. At her arraignment, Brenda tried to play the victim. It was a misunderstanding, she told the judge. I always intended to pay it back. The judge didn't flinch. Mrs. Fitzgerald, you stole $47,000 over 3 years. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a pattern. She was released on bail pending trial, but her world unraveled fast. Her Range Rover was repossessed. Her house went on the market. Tyler had to transfer to public school his senior year. I saw her one last time at the grocery store. She wore sweatpants and no makeup, a far cry from her usual perfectly matched outfits. When she saw me, she tried to duck into another aisle, then stopped. "I hope you're happy," she said bitterly. "You destroyed my life over a stupid party." "No, Brenda," I said, "you destroyed your life with your choices. I just refuse to be one of your victims." She opened her mouth to respond, then seemed to deflate. "5 years," she whispered. "My lawyer says I'm looking at 5 years." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered the neighbors she bullied, the businesses she fined into submission, the property she tried to seize, including mine. "Actions have consequences," I said quietly, and continued with my shopping. The trial wrapped last month. Brenda Fitzgerald was convicted of felony embezzlement and sentenced to 3 years in state prison, with 2 years suspended. She'll serve 1 year behind bars, followed by 5 years of probation and mandatory restitution to the HOA. Tyler watched as his mother was led away in handcuffs. The entitled teen who once tried to claim my cabin had been replaced by a quieter, humbled young man. These days, he works at a local hardware store to pay off his restitution. As for me, I still have my cabin, now with upgraded locks and a much more robust security system. The new HOA board is focused on actual community improvement instead of power plays. They even offered to cover my property damage from the recovered embezzlement fund. I declined. Tyler's restitution was enough. What I really wanted and finally got was peace and quiet. Sometimes I sit on the dock, fishing rod in hand, thinking how differently this all could have gone if Brenda had simply taken no for an answer. But she didn't. And now she's learning the meaning of property rights the hard way. From a 6-by-8 cell where no one cares that she used to be the HOA president. The last thing anyone saw before the bailiffs led her away were her tears, not for the neighbors she betrayed or the damage she caused. Just tears for herself.